This is the final installment in our chakra series. This is about the seventh chakra, or the Sahasrara chakra. And this is the one that is at the top of the head, where you've crossed the bridge between this world and the next and are able to straddle this world and the next without losing your mind. So let's get into it. As usual, I'll do a breakdown of details, what it's like when it's deficient, what it's like when it's excessive, what it's like when it's balanced, and how to bring into balance. So the location is the top of the head or slightly above. So it's Crown Chakra. So it's either at the crown of your head, but in a lot of systems, it's actually floating just above. The element is thought or pure consciousness. The color is violet or white. The developmental stage is adulthood, especially maturity. So we do most of our learning in life as adults, but we come into adulthood with a structure that we learned as children. So this stage of learning is mainly about unlearning. The central issue of this one is awareness of thoughts, awareness of the divine, and transcendence. The identity is a universal identity versus a detached and like just me identity. The demon or shadow is attachment to ego, attachment to beliefs, or the attachment to being separate from them or having a barrier between you and others. The right of this one is to know and to connect with spirit, to have access to your own divinity. And the abuse of this one is disconnection and withholding of information. This chakra is similar to the sixth chakra in that it deals with consciousness, but this one is very different in how you experience it in the ego. The journey of self-healing is a narcissistic journey. There is a lot of self-reflection and self-healing, and what about my wounds and the things that I've been through? And that is a necessary part. And then this chakra, the top, is where you fully attach to the divine and to the understanding that this is a journey that you're being taken on. There is the unseen journey, not just the material world. And this chakra is where you bring both of those worlds into balance. So not just me and my wounds and my healing and me as the divine, but also this fully other world, the unseen world, and you as the human in the material world, acknowledging fully the wisdom and the presence and the divinity of this other world. Knowing that forever, essentially, you will be a student and you will know just the smallest part. You'll look through a keyhole at this massive universe of light and you will never know. And if you can't be okay with that, you're going to constantly be shunted between the sixth and seventh because you can't transcend your own ego. The issue in this chakra, again, is separation of material world and spiritual worlds. And when you're a child, you are a really beautiful blend of spirit and human. You're a spirit having a human experience. Children are very naturally clairvoyant. You were once a child, so you know you had intuition, you knew things, you maybe saw things or experienced things that are unexplainable. And then as we grow, the idea of the spirit world is either beaten out of us or it's forced into religious dogma. And a lot of the unexplainable, your attachment to the unseen world, begins to get explained away, and you start to be taught fear of the unknown. And when you fear the unknown, it takes away that inner knowingness. It disconnects you from thinking, well, I know I spoke to the tree, or I know that a spirit came to me, or I know that I saw this, or I know that person was lying. You start to doubt all of your own intuition. And when you doubt your own intuition and you have this idea of an outside God that you need to please, or no God, there is a break in trust of the journey that we're on. And then we begin to live life from a fearful place. And there are very few cultures that teach divinity and that teach you how to straddle both worlds. There are some shamanic groups, and there's obviously Native Americans or people who live very close to the land tend to teach you more about the experience of God in real life and are able to have one foot in the spirit world and connected to nature and everything, and then also working in this world where you have to work with the land. If you don't, plow the soil and plant, then it doesn't matter because the gods can't do anything with you. This chakra is about the importance of acknowledging and befriending the unseen world. And if there was just this, if there was just the material world, we would be happy when we had the house that we wanted or the car that we wanted. When we had material things, we would stop the search. But even though we have material things, we continue the search because we are not just material beings. And this chakra is the full surrender to that, to realizing I am not just a body, I am not just a mind. We have a 3-body problem here. We have ether, we have spirit and soul, and that is something that we don't know about. And this is the journey of discovery. And now we'll jump into underactive, overactive, and how to bring it to balance. So, underactive or a deficient crown chakra. These personality types might have a very rigid belief system, but set in apathy. So they have rigid belief systems of non-belief, or they have rigid belief systems that there is nothing else and you couldn't possibly know. They also have a lot of excess in the lower chakras. So these people rely heavily on, I have the shiny car, I have the right spouse, I have the right job. And there's sort of a greed and a lot of materialism to this person because they don't have a tether to the unseen world. So they try to make the seen world as perfect as possible. And this person is very sure that nothing else exists, but they also fear the unknown. So I knew somebody like this and I offered them a tarot reading. And if you actually believe that there is only this material world, in my mind, then I could offer you a tarot reading and you could take it or leave it, but there wouldn't be the fear. But this person was very materialistic and was very big on like, none of those things are real. And I said, well, if it's not real, then can I read you anyway? And he said yes. And then he got very fearful. And then he said, hey, if it's bad, don't tell me. Don't tell me. Like, if it's anything bad, I don't want to know. And that's how you can sort of see the mistrust, where there's this pretense that this is the only thing that exists and I don't care about anything woo-woo. And then there's also the fear of like, please don't do anything woo-woo if it's going to mess up my material world. These personality types can be very cynical, skeptical of everything. These people are overly rational to the point of dismissing meaning. A lot of these people will over-intellectualize. They'll quote books at you. They'll quote all sorts of logical things at you. But again, there's a disconnect between their rigid rationality and there's no access to their soul. These people feel disconnected, purposeless, or cut off from themselves or others. These people tend to not be in community with anyone who is not almost exactly like them, especially in their thinking beliefs. They can struggle with apathy, depression, or a general feeling of numbness. Their identity feels small. They feel isolated or like they are just surviving. The psychological pattern, again, of this person is they rely very heavily on materialism and logic. They do always need more stuff, more logic. They have a fear of spirituality and a distrust of their inner experience. They may have had a spiritual experience when they were younger, but now it's easy for them to dismiss and write it off. But they do remember it. And that's the thing, when something is an actual soul experience, even if you can't make sense of it or you like want to push it away, you can't, because that was your soul and you remember those experiences. These people will have difficulty with imagination, inspiration, or a modern way to view it is they use a lot of like ChatGPT, but they use chat or they use AI to try and like push inspiration out of themselves because they're not in touch with their soul or their spirit. If they were, they wouldn't need this other thing to rely on to sort of shove creativity through their being. They could simply go to the seat of their soul or go to their heart and be like, what bubbles up? What creativity naturally just springs forth? And if this sounds like you or somebody you know, it's very normal to get stuck in this part of the journey. Again, getting stuck somewhere it's not a good or a bad thing. It's simply where you are. So if this sounds like where you are, that's fine. The way to start stepping more towards balance is to connect deeper with your body and your soul, and to use your body to get you to altered states. So whether it's doing breath work, or it's doing meditation, or it's doing a creativity practice or journaling, it's using the vessel of the body to have this other experience, to have using this body to step into the unknown and just being open to that. Being open to experiences that allow you to feel that spark, or to feel your spirit or soul bubble up a little bit more. And now we'll go overactive or excessive crown chakra. So it's too much, it's too open. These personality types might look like over-intellectualization. Oh my God, that's difficult. Over-intellectualization, but not in the logical sense, but in the way that they always have an answer. So anywhere that you've been, if you say, oh, I just realized blank, 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 they'll be like, I remember that. I know exactly where you are. And no matter who you are or when you talk to them, they're always in front of you on the path. They're never with you. They're in front of you. These personality types also tend to have a spiritual addiction where they have to get their hit. And whether that hit is like, I have to be in church, or the hit is, I need to sit in ayahuasca, or I need to sit in my mushroom ceremony. They have a need, a spiritual need that they must hit. Another indication of an excessive seventh chakra is confusion or disassociation from the body. So there are a couple of documentaries about this, about spiritual gurus or spiritual leaders, where the leader's body is very broken down. There's that one woman who like turned blue and then died. And there was another woman who developed gout and got very overweight and had to go everywhere in a wheelchair. And then there are other gurus who have to be carried everywhere, but they don't look at that as a disconnection from their body. In their mind, they think, well, I've ascended and I don't need this earthly body anymore. So they're completely disconnected from the material world, and they live exclusively, in theory, in this, quote, spiritual realm, but really it's not. They've just fully disassociated from their actual body. An easy way to spot somebody who has a balanced seventh chakra is they work with their body. Even if they have health issues, they're not trying to escape it or ignore it. They're working with the vessel that we have. Another sign of an excessive seventh chakra is psychosis. These people will also use ChatGPT, but they'll use it to confirm their specialness. There was this lady on TikTok recently, the Kendra lady who fell in love with her therapist, and she was shown on TikTok, and she was using an AI to tell her how special she was and how she was the called out one, she was chosen. And she was using the ChatGPT, or she was using the AI to confirm her how special she was and how other she was from everyone else. And that, I think, we see a lot of, and will continue to see a lot of, where people want to be disconnected from this, from face to face, from real human interaction, and they would rather stay in this other world where they are the most special. So along with the separation from physical responsibilities, these personality types will also want to be away from everyday activities. So for example, if you need to go fill out paperwork, you need to go to the DMV, you need to go wait in line for something, there is almost a resentment that I, the guru, have to go to the DMV and be treated by the desk clerk as if they don't know me, as if I am not special. There's this idea that there's me, the guru, who is in high vibration, and the grocery store clerk who is in low vibration. And because of that, I don't want to go to the grocery store. So again, there's separateness. And this is also true with religions. It's the idea that I, the Christian, believe the one true thing, and I will not go associate with heathens. There's a separateness. They also may neglect relationships and grounding because they're chasing transcendence. And there are these people that you can find on the internet where they abandon their families. They abandon their children, their spouses, because all of a sudden they have, quote, a higher calling, and now their children are low vibrational, which, like, okay, sometimes I get it, but also you have a responsibility. Again, this chakra is about learning to manage this world where you have responsibilities. There are things that you have to do, and balancing it with the unseen, not about like going full tilt into the unseen and abandoning this world. The psychological pattern of someone who is excessive in the seventh chakra will be someone who is disassociating, somebody who uses escapism or uses maybe a lot of psychedelics to avoid reality. They are prone to cult-like thinking and are prone to having one right way ideology. So again, this religion is correct, everything else is incorrect. They have difficulty discerning intuition from projection. And it's this vicious cycle of, I went to an ayahuasca ceremony, I had an insight. My insight is true, therefore I'm going to project this thing onto you, and it must be true because I saw it in my drug ceremony. And it's simply circular reasoning, it's bad logic. And if any of this has resonated with you, or you know somebody like this, the remedy for this is to be here, to be in this life. Work with people who don't think you're special. Go to the DMV. And if you are as spiritual as you think you are, you should be able to be with your family. You should be able to be with somebody who doesn't view you the way that you would like to be viewed. Put yourself in spaces where you are up against the full force of the human experience. This is why we are here. We are here to learn how to do difficult things and to learn how to transcend the inner worlds without losing sense of the outer world. But the outer world is here and it's set up as it is for a reason. A balanced crown chakra personality will be calm and grounded, but also spiritually connected. They'll see life with perspective and they'll trust the unfolding without having to cling so tightly to control. They will be curious about meaning without being dogmatic. They'll have a curiosity about spiritual practices without being rigid about which one is the correct one. And the thing about religious practices, spiritual practices, is if you get deep enough into them, they all have the same pattern. Every ancient practice says the same thing. And if you are as spiritual as you think you are, in theory, you would be able to look at all the different spiritual practices from a lens of curiosity as you try to find the patterns of connection. If you're in a spiritual practice and you're trying to separate us versus them and find ways that you are disconnected, that's a sign that there is no balance here. This person would have a sense of awe and reverence for life itself. They would practice humility and feel connected to something greater without feeling superior to other people. Somebody like a farmer or a gardener. This person understands there is something larger going on, but they don't need to know exactly what's going on. And again, if you look at the dark room analogy, if there's a stream of light coming through and you're curious about it, maybe you put up mirrors and maybe you start to shine the light in the whole room. And it's not because you're better than other people, it's that you were curious about the light and you're happy to share it with people that want to know how you did it. So you are someone who is curious and cultivating, but you are not grandiose. And now we'll talk about how to bring the crown chakra into balance. If deficient on the apathetic side, where you're not fully involved, you don't really acknowledge your soul, reestablish a spiritual connection. Practice meditation, practice an ego death, specifically the ego of knowing there is nothing more out there. So practice the ego death in that way and develop your inner life. So invite small practices that will expand your perspective. Try reading something of a different spiritual practice. Try contemplation, try journaling exercises. Start little rituals with nature or start adding art to your life. Trust your intuition, your imagination, and get to know your subtle awareness. Make sure that you ground yourself in the body before exploring higher states, but you can also use the body as the vehicle to discover those altered states without having to dip into psychedelics. But mostly, learn to have fun with these things. So have fun with tarot cards, have fun with affirmations, have fun with crystals or finding out what your spirit animal is. The highest vibration that you can be in is contentment and joy. So as you're discovering this, if you don't want to accidentally join a cult, move towards the people who are joyful with this, not the people who are serious and very rigid. Because again, the best place that you could ever end up is near people who are vibrant and joyful. If you are excessive, if you're too involved with the spiritual world, reestablish physical and emotional connection to this world. Study a new spiritual discipline, so be a beginner again in something. Go through an ego death. This is again the ego of knowing, whereas if you're deficient, you know that there's nothing else out there. And this In this excessive one, you know there is something out there and you think you know what it is. And that part of you has to die. And you have to come back to this world and establish a strong outer life. Focus on embodiment, eat nourishing food, move your body, so get back in touch with it. Engage in daily tasks, do the simple things that you think that you're above. Clean your toilet. Release your rigid spiritual frameworks, like the people that are like, I have to get this amount of meditation, this amount of yoga, this amount, like calm down. Try and be in the human experience without all those things for a day. Also invite curiosity and play. Spend time with a different community to balance your, quote, oneness and your guru-ness with actual real human connection. Go into communities where you are insignificant and see if you can survive in those communities and actually connect with other people that think in a different way than you do. Practice humility and let go of needing to know all the answers. The key teaching of this chakra is that you are not alone here. We are not here just for the human experience. This is a human experience, but we are divine. So we, the divine, are living a human experience. And within that, we are designed for union with each other and with the divine. We're not here alone. There is a reason that it feels really good to help other people. There's a reason it feels good to have a conversation with somebody who understands you. That's connection. That's what we're here for. And there's a reason it feels bad when there's disconnection, when you break up with somebody. Nobody leaves a breakup being like, oh my God, I'm so joyful and peaceful. Maybe later, sure. But in the interim, in the breaking, it feels painful on our spirit to be in disconnection with other people. And I was also very much the person that denied that I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy alone though. And that was true until a certain amount of repair was done. And now I realized I need to learn how to be in connection. Again, every ancient culture has the practice of connection between you and your community, you and the divine. It's a modern way of thinking to think that every man is an island and we can go it alone. And it's important that we start to come back to a more truthful way of being, which is the acknowledgement that yes, there is the material world and there is also the divine world, and you, me, we are a combination of both of those worlds. And our body and our breath is the connection, is the bridge between those two. In this chakra, we learn to fully embrace the gods, to get comfortable knowing that we will never fully know, but it is still worth the learning experience. True awakening is never about escaping this world. And there are people who use spirituality to try and escape who they are. And that's not what this journey is about. It is about being here. How can I integrate into myself to journey up through the chakras, to learn about my grounding, my creativity, my sexuality, my power, my heart, using my voice, learning to calm my thoughts so that I can get here and fully be the bridge between these two worlds. To know that if the person in front of me is hurting, it is not my time to slip into the divine and to slip away and be like, well, God said blank, blank, blank. How can I be here with the person across from me or the task across from me and give it my best? This is when it's time to fully step into the stream. So consciousness is not a static thing. It is like a rushing river. And if throughout this series, you've sort of been dipping a toe, you like play on the riverbank, you put your feet in, you're like, it's cute. This is the time where you acknowledge that there is something else, there is a stream and I can step into it. But if I step into it, I got to acknowledge the stream is in charge. I'm not in charge. The only thing you can do once you're in the flow of the stream is learn to float and to trust and understand that it is carrying you somewhere. You don't need to know where you're going. You just try and stay and float. And if you go underwater for a second, great, but by nature, you'll come back up. But can you trust what is happening? Can you trust yourself in this material world to take care of yourself, to be good, to be kind to yourself, and also to trust what the universe or God has in store for you? I hope that you enjoyed this series. It was really fun for me to make. And again, know that this is meant to be joyful. It's meant to bring you a new way of seeing things or just a new perspective. Most of the things in life that are amazing we don't know about yet. So can you stay open and learn and allow yourself to grow and to change? Essentially, can you trust the process? I hope that you can, and I hope that this journey has allowed you to expand just a little bit and know that you can expand forever. The journey doesn't end. The pain along the journey does end. And I think that's important, because when you first start the journey and you start the shedding and the falling away, it feels like, why am I going to continue on this journey if it just brings more pain? The pain does end. There is an absolute end point, but the journey continues. So if you can find it in yourself to trust, have the courage to tell yourself the truth, stay in the stream for just another day, see where it carries you, and know that the pain does end, but the journey is endless. And that is such a wonderful thing. So thank you for being with me. I'll see you next time.